Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you liked the last video. In this video we are going to do the injector washes and injector seals. And this is a common problem on the Td5, that the injector washes or seals leak, and then you can get diesel into your oil. And what that results in is that the oil gets thinner and thinner, and it doesn't lubricate as it should. So this Defender actually has had problems with that with the previous owner. He told me he had to change the turbo, so there's a new turbo installed, and he did the washes because the thin oil actually destroyed the turbo bearings. So but he also told me when I bought this car that he wasn't sure if he did it properly. So washes are cheap and the job isn't too hard, so I thought I'd just do it as a preventative measure. Yeah, so let's just get on with it. What I have to do is take the rocker cover off, and then take the injector harness off, and then take the rocker shaft off. And then we'll see what the next steps are. It's not that much more, it's just you have to loosen all the injectors and get them out. And getting them out seems to be the hardest part. So we'll see how we'll do this. Okay, now I actually have the whole rocker shaft removed, and I've also loosened the bolts that go to the that hold the injectors in place. So now I can actually pull the injector brackets out and then start working on the injectors. And I'm using a magnet for this. So there's the bolt. And here's the bracket. Okay, so now all the injectors are free, and it is time to modify one of these so I can actually take the injectors out. There is a special tool, it's called a slide hammer, I think, to pull these out, but it's about, I think it's 300 or 400 pounds or something, so it's quite expensive. And I've seen a bunch of videos where they do it using one of these. I have a few of these, so I'm actually willing to offer one of them. And I think I can actually, I'll just have to see how I'm modifying this, because they are not bolted together or anything, so we'll see. We'll see how we'll do this. I'm just going to cut this little piece off. So I just wanted this to take the injector out, because then you put this under the injector and then use the handle as a lever and try and wiggle it out. I've even seen them do it with, they tap it with a hammer, so we'll see if that's needed. Okay, so what I'm trying to do now is taking this water pump wrench and get it under here. And that way we can actually pry the whole thing out. So as you can see down here, in here, there's the end of it. And then we're going to try and pry it out. Okay, that was quite easy. It was done with hand power. That's number 3. Number 1. Number 4. That's the final one. Now here you can see the copper washer right here, and then here is a rubber seal that seals any air coming into the fuel system. So we are going to be replacing both, just to be sure. And there we have them all lined up, and I numbered the cardboard which they're on, because all these injectors actually are coded. So there's a code on top of the injector, and that's then linked to the ECU in the car. So if you get them wrong, it won't fire. So make sure to either do it like this and sort them all, or just do one at a time, because then you really can't do anything wrong. So I've already taken the copper washers off, and you can see there's some soot that comes off the injector pin, but that doesn't matter too much. It's not too bad. It's always good to clean this up. Just give the surface a light sand, but be really careful. And we're also going to take these rubber seals off, and I'm just going to use a really thin flat screwdriver to get it started, and then I can use my fingers to get them off and do the least damage as possible. That's the first seal off. Okay, so now both the washers and the seals are off each injector, and now I have some 800 grit sandpaper, and we're just going to sand the tip right here and just make it as clean as possible, so that the new washer goes on really smoothly. That's that. Now the whole tip is just nice and smooth. Okay, so the next thing to clean is the track. Let's see, focus, perfect. It's the track where the rubber seal sits. So you just want to make sure that it's all completely clean and that there is no debris in here that can interrupt the seal. And this looks all good and clean. So here we have the new seals and washers. And here's the part number if anyone wants to know. I got myself a Brit Part 1, DA2479. Okay, so when we're putting on this new seal, it goes on like this, and it has to go all the way down here into this slot. And it is really important that you do not twist the new seal, because if it's twisted then it'll leak. So I'm actually going to lube up this whole part with some engine oil, and that way we can try and slide it on. So no twisting. And that's all seals done. So now I'm just going to clean off some oil, some excessive oil, and then we'll do the washes. So that's all washes put back on again. And now it's just a reverse installment. Okay, so the clamps for the injectors, they are torqued down to 32 Newton meters. So let's set it to 32. Okay, so now I've set the torque wrench to 32 Newton meters, and now it's time to start tightening all the clamps. See. So now all the injectors are in place. I'm just going to go around and torque them up once again, just to be on the safe side and to be sure that they are all seated properly and tight against the block or the head, and then we can start putting the rocker shaft back on. Now let's see, we'll put the rocker shaft back in, and what you have to do is get all the runners on the lobes. Basically like that. Let's see, are we on correctly now? Yeah, now we're on. And just like when loosening the rocker shaft, it is very important to tighten it gradually, so not to over tighten one bolt at a time, because you can risk snapping the whole shaft if it's too tight somewhere. So I'm just doing them up hand tight, and then we'll start using a small ratchet handle and just tighten them one by one, really carefully, and slowly force the rocker shaft down onto the head. Now what's also important is that you undo these screws so you relieve the tension of the rocker arms, because otherwise it'll create extra tension on the rocker shaft itself when you tighten it. And these will be set when we have the rocker shaft in place. Now we'll start tightening all these nuts gradually. So I'll start at one end and just do them until there's some tension there, and then we'll do the other end, and then we'll do the middle. I don't know the exact sequence, but as long as you don't tighten one bolt much more than the others, you should be alright. And these bolts should also be tightened to 32 Newton meters. Okay, so now with the camshaft lobe at the top position, we screw this screw down with the nut loose, and then screw it until we feel the injector piston is bottoming out. That's that. Feels like it. Yeah. And then you just go one turn back. One, half turn and one. And then tighten the nut without moving the screw. So make sure you put your screwdriver back in and put some pressure on it. And that's how it's supposed to be done. and then you just spin the crank again and watch the camshaft lobes go up, and then it's time to do cylinder number 2. Okay, so when all 5 of these are adjusted and set correctly, then the Haynes manual actually says that you should turn the engine over 2 times by hand to make sure that none of the pistons in the injectors are bottoming out. So let's do that. And I actually don't know what it feels like if it's bottoming out, but I'm sure we'll find out. Now, time to install a brand new injector wiring harness. And it's very easy. You just click them on, let's see, the correct way, like that. And then this goes down in the hole. Just like that. And then don't forget to connect it back up again over here, because otherwise the car won't start. Click, click. Yep. Nice. Now it's time to fit the rocker cover back on. And I also have a new gasket for it. Okay, so let's put it back on. I have a few more jobs to do before we can start it. So as you can see here, for example, I still need to put the rotor filter housing back on. I snapped both of the bolts, so I've actually drilled out the holes. Here we have a new rotor filter. And what comes with it, here's the filter, and that spins inside of there. And here we have a new seal as well that goes around the rotor filter housing, around the cap. So I'll just show you. Here we have the top of it, the lid, then you just put the rubber seal around it like that. And then it's time to drop the filter into the housing and then put the lid on. Now it was time to put some fresh oil in it, and also I had some air intake pipes disconnected, and I just put everything back together as it was. And this actually doesn't have anything to do with the injector job, but I earlier took some parts off to clean them and stuff. So I'm just putting everything back together and preparing the engine for its first startup in a while. And now for the exciting part. Does it start? And here I first actually turned the engine over using the key, but I pulled the fuses for the fuel pump. So I just turned the engine over just in case there was a lot of diesel in the cylinders
I didn't want to hydrolock it, so that's what you see here. And now I've connected everything back together and I'm letting the fuel pump prime the system. Started just as expected. There was still some air in the system, and that's why it took so long for it to start, but once running it ran perfectly. And there we have it. It runs really nicely, and it's just a proof of a job well done. The washers and seals work. It starts fine on the first turn in the morning, and the engine is running perfectly. I hope you liked this video. Please drop a like, drop a comment down below, tell me what you want to see, and subscribe if you haven't already. Now we'll see you in the next video.